Good evening and welcome to the Passion Week. My name is Joram and I will be your host tonight. We are live in the Motion Church. You are at home, but we are connected through the power of technology. The theme of this week is human. What makes us human? This question is maybe now relevant more than ever. Every evening we try to answer that question from a different perspective. Yesterday evening we talked about rational and we were joined by Professor Krijn de Jong. He tried to answer the question, science and faith, are they friends or foes? What stayed with me was first of all that he used to dig tunnels as a youth, which is close to my heart as a geologist, but maybe more important to you and to me, that he made the point mind before matter. He talked about the Big Bang and how it can combine with the creation of the Earth. So if you're interested in that, you can look it back. It's all recorded and you can find it on the same place you found this live stream, on the website www.passionweek.nl/Utrecht. Tonight, we will talk about being responsible. Why should we care about each other? Please leave your questions in Sli.Do during the talk and after the talk. And we will have a Q&A session where I will ask you your questions to our speaker of the night. You can also join Zoom at the end of this evening to meet and connect with others and with us. Now I will tell you why you should care about the speaker of the night. Because he's not only my friend, but since recently also my colleague. So he knows I'm not very responsible with deadlines. I know him as a kind and wise person. He works on the campus in Utrecht, where he talks to students about faith and life. Please welcome Ruben Visser.
Thank you, Joram, for those kind words. You have said about everything that can be said about me, I think, so I suggest we dive right into the subject matter. And first of all, I want to thank the Passion Week team for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about what is, I feel, a very important subject, namely responsibility. Why is this such an important subject? Because taking responsibility gives meaning to our lives. If you take care of someone else, you make your life count for others. And I would argue that that is a good thing. Now, the overarching theme of this Passion Week is the question, what makes us human? And the simple fact that the question, why should we care for each other, is taken up in this Passion Week, in itself already reveals the following, that taking care of each other is something that makes us human. So in a sense, we could end this talk right here, because isn't that reason enough to say that the reason we should take care of each other is that it makes us human? However, I suppose the Passion Week team wouldn't be too pleased if I were to leave it at this, and maybe you as well will be a bit disappointed. So I intend to say a little bit more about it, and there is more that can be said about it, obviously. However, you might feel from time to time that we are moving in a circle. And that cannot be avoided, I think, because these subjects are very much interrelated and connected. I believe, however, that there is a fundamental truth underlying all of these questions. So what I attempt to do is not to move in a circle, but to move in a spiral, spiraling down until we hit upon this fundamental truth. Let me outline the contents of this talk for you. I've structured this talk in 4 sections. First of all, I want to say something about the brotherhood of men and why moving closer together doesn't automatically solve our problems. Secondly, we might rephrase the question, why should we care for each other? In this way, why is taking care of each other the right thing to do? Now, this is a question about right and wrong, an ethical question. So I want to give you 4 ethical reasons why we should take care of each other. Then thirdly, I want to explain how this question, why should we take care of each other, relates to the overarching question of this Passion Week, what makes us human? And fourthly and lastly, I want to reflect on the words of philosopher Emmanuel Levinas, who stated that the face of another person makes an appeal to me. So if I see someone face to face, something moves inside me, motivating me to take care of this other person. Now, a couple of years back, Mark Zuckerberg claimed that there will be much less hostility and violence in the Middle East if all Jews and Palestinians would be a member of the Facebook community. At the time, he would probably have said the same thing about Sunnis and Shiites, or to stay closer to home, about Europeans and immigrants. We all know that Facebook and other social media very often have the exact opposite effect. The social media can bring people together, yes, that's true, but in many cases, what happens on the social media estranges us from each other. I have certainly experienced this, especially over the last year, with so many topics about which you might have an opinion which differs from somebody else. And I think you can agree or you can relate to this. And if not, I suggest you friend me on Facebook, because I certainly have posted those things that maybe you will disagree with. But I don't do that any longer. So I doubt if Zuckerberg would dare to make the same claim today. However, the assumption that is underlying his claim is an assumption we still make. The underlying assumption is that when people come closer together, when they move in each other's direction, when the distance between one group and the other becomes smaller, they will start to respect each other, understand each other, love each other maybe, and recognize each other as a brother. The assumption is that we are all brothers and sisters, and that when more people would recognize this universal brotherhood, there will be more love and understanding. The brotherhood of men was a core belief of the modern era and continues to be so in our postmodern day. All of you probably know the poem Ode an die Freude by Friedrich Schiller. In this poem, Schiller expresses the hope that alle Menschen werden Brüder, all men will be brothers. It was this poem that inspired Ludwig van Beethoven in writing the final part of his Ninth Symphony, which is, since 1985, the official European anthem. So alle Menschen werden Brüder is our common European hope. And we live in a time when differences between people have become smaller and smaller. I am aware, of course, that in many places and around the globe, the gap between rich and poor, between the haves and the have-nots, is widening. On the other hand, it is equally true that we have never been so much the same as we are right now. We, all of us, are inhabitants of one and the same global village. When you go to a festival, you stand shoulder to shoulder with people from all over the globe. And there is nothing that really separates you in that moment. Those moments of connectedness are precious. However, it can also easily be observed that when the differences between people become smaller, feelings of rivalry and envy grow stronger. Thomas Hobbes, the famous English philosopher, observed this already back in the 17th century. He wrote, "I don't really care when a carriage pulled by 8 horses passes me by in the street while I am walking there. But when I am sitting in a carriage that is being pulled by 2 horses, and a carriage that is being pulled by 4 horses overtakes me, that really upsets me." So pointing people to the universal brotherhood of men will not suffice as an answer to the question why we should care for each other. According to the Bible, the very first man born of a woman, Cain, murdered his very own brother, Abel. Now Cain obviously knew that Abel was his brother. However, this knowledge didn't prevent him from killing him. It is often the people who are closest to us that can hurt us the most. Maybe you have experienced this for yourself. So apparently it is oftentimes not enough for us merely to recognize that someone is my brother. We need to be made aware of the fact that because someone is my brother, that means that he or she is worthy of my protection and care. So after Cain killed Abel, God asked Cain, "Where is your brother?" To which Cain replied, "Why do you ask? How should I know? Am I my brother's keeper?" And clearly, according to the Bible, there is only one right way to answer this question. Yes, you are your brother's keeper. Clearly, God expects us that we take care of each other. And this is one of the ways in which we might answer the question, why should we take care of each other? We should take care of each other because God expects us to. I will come back to this shortly. However, let us take a small step back first. When we ask the question, why should we care for each other? We might answer by saying, well, it's the right thing to do. And maybe our follow-up question will be, well, why is taking care of each other the right thing to do? And as I mentioned in the introduction, this is an ethical question, a question about right and wrong. Now, ethical questions can be answered in multiple ways. There are different kinds of ethics. I want us to take a short look at 4 different ethical reasons why we should take care of each other. The first strain of ethical thought is called utilitarianism, and this is a very common approach to dealing with ethical questions. We ask, which course of action brings about the most good for the largest number of people? Or in the words of Jeremy Bentham, it is the greatest happiness of the greatest number that is the measure of right and wrong. Now, it is quite obvious that taking care of each other would be a good thing to do in a utilitarian framework, because I think we would all agree that the world would be a much merrier place if we would all take care of each other and act responsibly. So why should we take care of each other? Because it brings about the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Another strain of ethics is called deontology, and this is not so much concerned with the consequences, but more with the act itself. So instead of asking, does taking care of other people have good consequences, it asks, is taking care of people a good thing in itself? And in order to answer this question, deontology looks at the duties, the obligations that we have. Immanuel Kant is famous for working out a form of deontological ethics, saying, act only according to that rule, by which you can also will that it will become a universal law. Now, one of the most well-known principles that guide our lives is the Golden Rule. The Golden Rule states that do to others as you would have them do to you. This rule is very old and can be found in many different cultures and religions. It is like a common rule of mankind. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Ask yourself, would you want someone to take care of you when you were in need of care, of help? Well, if so, then you should take care of the people around you who are in need of your care and your help. So why should we take care of each other? Because it is something you would want other people to do as well. Now, another form of deontology is divine command theory. This form of ethics states that the right thing to do is to obey God's commands, because His commands, His rules, His principles are just. The Bible is filled with commands, with imperatives, with instructions and guidelines about what is right and what is wrong. Taking care of each other is clearly a right thing to do according to God. The imperative to take care of each other can be found all over the Bible. When people think of the commands that can be found in the Bible, they oftentimes only think of the prohibitions. Don't do this, don't do that, don't eat this. And there are a lot of prohibitions in the Bible, for sure. However, there are a lot of positive commands as well. And from these commands, it is clear that God wants us to take care of each other. It is stated repeatedly, be good towards each other, love each other, take care of the poor, take care of the widows and the orphans, take care of refugees and strangers. Jesus, when asked the question of all the commandments, which is the most important, he answered, love your God with all your heart and mind and soul and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So why should we care for each other? Because we are commanded to. It is our moral obligation, our duty. Love your neighbor as yourself. The fourth type of ethics I want to say something about shortly is virtue ethics. Virtue ethics, when asked what is right thing to do, answers, the right thing to do is whatever produces a virtuous character. So the attention shifts from the act itself and from the consequences to your own person. So with respect to the question, why should we care for each other? Virtue ethics investigates how taking care of other people profits me. Not in the sense of, if I take care of someone, he or she will take care of me, or he will return the favor. Now what I mean is, how does taking care of people make me a better person? I think this kind of consideration is worth thinking about. It asks questions like, what can I do to become a better human being? What things should I do to develop my character? What course of action promotes in me the development of a beautiful character? Now this kind of ethics is called virtue ethics because virtues are what make up a beautiful character. And there are like 7 main virtues in ancient traditions and in the church, of which charity, caritas, is one. Caritas, love. So if we ask, how can I become a better person? The answer will be, start doing things that form your character. Start taking care of people. Start loving them. Take a responsibility upon your shoulders. So why should we care for each other? Because it promotes within us the virtues that together constitute an admirable character. So there you have it, 4 different ethical reasons why we should take care of each other. The overarching theme of this Passion Week is the question, what makes us human? Now, this question, what makes us human, is a question of anthropology. Anthropology concerns itself with questions like, what is man and who is man? The way you will answer these questions will be influenced heavily by the story you tell yourself about how all of this came to be. What is our origin? Where do we come from? Christian anthropology starts from creation. God created the heavens and the earth, and He created mankind. So man is created in God's image. Who is man? He is imago Dei. And this applies to all of mankind. Every human being is an image bearer of God. And since we are all conscious human beings, we expect every single human to display moral and just behavior. So if we ask the question, what makes us human? Christianity would answer, what makes us human is that we are moral beings, we are conscious, we have a feeling about what is right and what is wrong, and we ought to do what is right. So why should we take care of each other? Because we are moral beings, and we know that taking care is a morally good thing to do. However, Christian anthropology also puts great emphasis on love. Christian anthropology is relational anthropology because the God who created us is a relational being. God is love, we say. Maybe you have heard talk about God, the God of Christianity, being a triune God, a trinity, 3 persons. And this can be something that is hard to understand. However, in a sense, saying that God is 3 persons is just another way of saying that God is love. C.S. Lewis puts it like this. All sorts of people are fond of repeating the Christian statement that God is love. But they seem not to notice that the words God is love have no real meaning unless God contains at least 2 persons. Love is something that one person has for another person. If God was a single person, then before the world was made, He was not love. So Christians believe that the living, dynamic activity of love has been going on in God forever and has created everything else. God is a relational being, and so is mankind, made in His image. What makes us human? The ability to love and to receive love. The other week I came across an article written by a Dutch journalist and author of books called Guido Bindels. Guido has a 32-year-old daughter, Brigitte, who is severely disabled. Brigitte has a very small head, so her brains have hardly developed. She can't walk, she can't sit, she can't stand, she can't talk. And 1 year ago, when we as a country went into lockdown for the first time, Brigitte happened to be at home with her dad. And Guido is doing everything to prevent his daughter from being infected by COVID. After the summer, Guido was trying to let go a bit, but then multiple people in Brigitte's care institution were infected, so they decided to keep Brigitte home. Brigitte stays with her dad, Guido, for 1 week, and then she goes to stay with her mother, Guido's ex-wife, the next. And this has been going on now for a year. And during all this time, Guido has been in quarantine, minimizing the chance to pick up the virus somewhere and infect his daughter. What do Guido and Brigitte do when they are together? Guido describes it in this way. Brigitte cannot sit up straight by herself, so normally we sit together on the couch, leaning against each other. I talk a little to her, or I sing her a song. Liefde van Later by Herman van Veen is my favorite. I sing the refrain, my own version of it, every night before she goes to sleep, and every morning when I wake her up. It goes like this. I love you with all of my heart and soul, I love you. Beyond sun and moon until the morning blue, that is how much I love you. I sing it during the day as well, sitting on the couch, cheek to cheek. I love you, and a big smile appears on Brigitte's face. And Guido goes on to say, in truth, Brigitte is like a mirror. Whatever you give to her, she gives back to you. If you give her love, pure love, then you will receive an overdose of love back from her. Now, this kind of love, this kind of taking care for someone is extraordinary. But what I want to point out to you is this. Giving and receiving love is what makes us human. People who are very much dependent on other people, with severe disabilities, people like Brigitte, they lack the opportunity to take care of other people. Instead, they need someone else to take care of them. All they do is receive love, and they mirror it back. And in that, they are like God, who from all eternity is not only giving, but also receiving love. Now let's circle back to our main question. Why should we take care of each other? I would like to say a little more about this question, and then we'll draw this to an end. The philosopher Emmanuel Levinas stated that the face, the countenance of another person makes an appeal to me. When we see someone face to face, something happens. And when we see the face of someone who is suffering, we are moved with compassion, and we feel an urge, a desire to help. Well, this isn't really an explanation of why we are taking care of each other. Levinas merely states that apparently, when we see someone else, he or she makes an appeal to us, to which we need to reply. I think we all recognize this. I mean, if we hear something about children in Africa dying of hunger or thirst, the numbers can overwhelm us, and maybe we don't feel a great urge to do something. But if we then turn on the TV and see one of those faces of those kids, it does something to us. To illustrate what Levinas meant, I would like to read a small excerpt from a book by Harry Mulisch, a famous Dutch author from the 20th century. The book is titled Tussen Hamer en Aanbeeld. It tells the story of a soldier, Nikolai Varanev, who shortly after World War II mans the border post between Bratislava and Vienna. One night a car approaches the border post and Varanev fires a shot, meaning to give off a warning sign, but the shot accidentally kills the driver of the car, who later turns out to be a British politician. In Western Europe, a great fuss is made about this incident, and Varanev is put in prison. Kaganovic, the prison ward, has informed Varanev that the people start demanding that Varanev be given the death sentence. And then comes the excerpt. I don't understand, says Varanev, that the others can do it. Don't they know that I'm human? Of course they know, but that understanding doesn't mean anything to them. Nor to me. During a break from an offensive in the war, I once sat with my friend in a shell crater. And that's where we had a conversation, which I remember exactly. We assumed the existence of a country with 10 million inhabitants, of which we knew nothing else, only that they were human beings. And then we wondered what we will do if one of us was faced with the opportunity or with the choice, I die or those 10 million people die. So what would we do if we had the opportunity to save those 10 million people with our own lives? We agreed soon enough. 10 million, Kaganovic said. Varanev replies, do not accuse us of inhumanity. The number doesn't matter. It could have been 1 billion or 1. I am one of those people who is being sacrificed quietly by the others out there. Inside a shell crater, we drew the conclusion that the concept of human being is empty. It doesn't mean anything. But if we had seen only one of those 10 million people whose fate depended on us, for example, a woman with blue eyes, we would have given our lives immediately, not for the concept of human being, but for those 2 blue eyes. Varanev got up slowly, giving the impression that he was calm, but his shaking hands indicated otherwise. I have blue eyes too, he said smothered, walking towards Kaganovic. But they don't know. Soon there were tears in his eyes. He bent over to the old man, and in a breaking yet sharp voice, he whispered, tell the world I have blue eyes, Kaganovic. Tell her I have blue eyes. Now why am I telling you this story? Because I think it perfectly illustrates what I just told you about Levinas, who argued that the face, the countenance of another person makes an appeal to us. This soldier, Varanev, what does he want? He wants the world to know that he has blue eyes. In other words, he wants the world to think of his face, to picture him. And notice too, it is especially someone's face that can have this effect on us. Varanev doesn't want the world to know that he has 10 toes or that he has strong arms. He wants the world to know that he has blue eyes. So the face of another person makes an appeal to us. Now why is this? I would argue because something inside of us recognizes this individual's worth and uniqueness. This other person is worthy and unique because he or she is created by God in the image of God. Let us summarize what we have discussed and draw a conclusion. I began by saying that from time to time you might have the feeling that we are moving in a circle. I hope, however, that you also feel that we have been spiraling down a little. First, discovering that merely moving closer together is not going to solve our problems. It might just highlight and aggravate them. And then discovering that if we approach the question ethically, at least 4 different ethical reasons can be given as to why caring for each other is the right thing to do. And then discovering 2 things in Christian anthropology that help us to answer the question why we should care for each other. First, we human beings are moral beings, and we find in ourselves a moral compass that tells us it is good to take care of other people. And secondly, we human beings are relational beings, created to give and receive love, just as God is eternally giving and receiving love. And finally, reaching a place where we say, the countenance of the person I encounter makes an appeal to me. We should care for each other because we are all intrinsically worthy. I will close by quoting a scholar and a band. First the scholar, Jan Hoogland. Why is the ethic of love so important? Because it answers the why question. Why care about the environment? Why care for someone who is ill, someone who is destitute? Why do you come to the rescue of someone who makes an appeal to you? Not to solve a world problem, but because this other person is worthy of it, intrinsically. Or as the British band Keane put it in their song called Spiraling, I fashioned you from jewels and stone. I made you in the image of myself. Thank you all for your attention. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Ruben. It was very informative and also some personal notes. Thank you. What stuck to me was your story about your Facebook page and what you posted on there. I follow you on Facebook, and I've seen some things about which I thought, well, a tip for everybody is to speak about that in person rather than in the Facebook comments.
I agree.
So I have your Facebook page here, and no, I'm kidding. Another thing that stuck to me was your point about the universal law. Should everybody do this behavior I am doing now for ethical behavior? So in a moment, I'm going to ask you all the questions from Sli.Do.
All right.
First, I'm going to say some things to the viewers again, because there's a form you can fill in, and I can hear you asking, why should we care about the form? 3 things. You get free things. You get a goodie bag if you fill the form in. You get free books that also include books on this theme, but also on the themes of the other evenings. And you can continue the conversation with one of us if you want to. So you can leave your details in the form and you get all those things for free. I'm starting to think I should fill in the form myself. Another thing is you can also still keep asking your questions in Sli.Do if you haven't done so already. And also if you hear the answer from Ruben and you want to ask a follow-up question, you can also do that. But then please make sure you notify in your question that it is a follow-up question on what we are talking about. So now I will get the questions from Sli.Do ready. And I'll have to excuse myself for looking at my phone very much during this conversation, Ruben. So the first question is, it's now night 3. What theme is most important to you personally? Emotional, rational, or responsible, and why?
Oh, interesting question. Obviously, the topic of tonight appeals to me. I mean, I've been thinking about this for like 2 weeks, and the last week I've been thinking about it intensely. And I think tonight's theme really is important for me personally. Responsibility. I just feel like I'm a responsible person. I think it has to do something also with the fact that I'm the oldest of 4 brothers at home, so I was always feeling a bit responsible for my brothers, you know. But I think the Passion Week or this week is very balanced in the different teams, and I think all the teams are very important. And I think it's just a basic fact of life that the thing is to keep things balanced, you know, and not focus too much on one thing. That's always a risk, to focus very much on one thing. I think all of life is something of like a dance, and you need to keep moving and keep shifting your weight and try to balance.
Yeah, I personally know the pitfall of focusing too much on one thing. I thought that at the beginning of my master's and at the beginning of my master's thesis. Only focusing on one thing doesn't make me happy, at least. And I think that's true for many more topics. So about what is an admirable character. is what makes an admirable character democratically decided, or do you think there are absolute admirable things?
Um, well, I think there are a couple of virtues that we all agree, or at least for a long time we have agreed on that they are important. So the 7 virtues that I mentioned, I didn't all mention them, but there are like 4 cardinal virtues that are from ancient Greece. It's like things like prudence, like so be careful, um, be courageous, courage. Um, and the three virtues that the Catholic Church added to the list are faith, hope, and love. And I think almost everybody would agree that those are important things to have in your life. These are important um, aspects of your character that you can develop and that make you a better human being. If you are courageous, if you are careful and not doing things without thinking, if you have faith in things, if you love other people, I I think that since these are like so ancient, people have always believed that these are important things. Um, yeah, that make up a beautiful character. That say, well, this person has a beautiful character. He is very virtuous. Yeah,
So these things are broader than Christianity then.
yeah, obviously, yeah. So I mean, like things like courage and uh, being responsible, but yeah, they are broader than Christianity. I believe they are common to all of mankind. Uh, every culture, every tradition has its set of values and things that are important, and very often they agree, right? So if you have a tribe somewhere, what is important? That you look after each other, that you protect each other, that you provide for your wife, for your kids, for the other members of your tribe. Um, things like art and creativity. Every culture around the world has displayed this longing for beautiful things. You know, from the Maya temples to the temples in China to the pyramids. We have always strived to make things that are beautiful and wonderful. So this is something that all of mankind has. So, but those 3 virtues, faith, hope, and love, they come directly from the Bible. Yeah, and I wouldn't say that those are explicitly Christian either, but they have a different or more special connotation in Christianity.
Okay, so it's broader than Christianity, broader than the Bible, broader than the Christian God. Um, then my question would be, why do we need a Christian God for being responsible? And the question which nicely links to that from Sli.Do is, people are all capable of love. I feel responsible for the ones I love, so I take care of them. Why do I need God then?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's the right thing to say you need God for that, but I think it points to the fact that that God is real. So I was trying to make this point also in the talk, that just the mere fact that we all human beings take care of each other and love each other, I think that points to the fact that there is something or someone in the beginning that can explain for this. So, like if love has always existed, inside of God, for example, then that would be an explanation for the fact why all of us, human beings, created by this God, want to love each other and want to take care of each other. Because this is something that that God has given us to do. So the fact that we are all taking care of each other, or we want to take care of each other and we want to love each other, I think that just points to the fact that we are created in God's image. So we don't really need God for doing that. We can take care of each other very, very well without God. Although I think that God can help us with it, but we can do it without God. There are a lot of people, of course, who take care of other people without believing in God. But I think still that the fact that they are doing it points to a deeper reality, namely that they are relational beings because they are created by a relational God.
Okay, so I understand your argument from past to present. If there is a relational, loving God, and He has created us to His image, then therefore we would also be loving and relational. But the other way around, I still don't fully grasp. If we are loving and relational people, is God the only place that can come from? Can it not come from something else or someone else?
Personally, I don't know of any other explanation for this. I mean, we are all persons, so I think there has to be something personal at the beginning. I'm trying to argue back from where we are right now to what must be there at the beginning, and yeah, the fact that we are persons, personal beings. I think for personal beings to exist, there has to be a personal cause as well. And for loving beings to exist, there has to be love. Love has to be something real. Otherwise, if there is no love from the beginning, then our love would also maybe not be real, or it will be, I don't know, if love is not a real thing, if it hasn't always been there, it's not something that is real. That if it wasn't there and it will stop to be there, then it's just a construction we have, and it's not something real. It's just something it's just a name we give to something, but it's not really something that exists. That to me is not a very attractive explanation, because then things are only constructs that we have, but they don't really exist from before we were created, let's say.
Okay, that's interesting. I find this personally an interesting topic, and the chat as well. So we can dig a little bit deeper into this. And if you're still interested in topics like these, you can join the Zoom afterwards if we run out of time for all the questions that are coming in. So a follow-up question in this theme is the virtues you describe. Aren't those virtues you talk about determined by culture? Cultures definitely differ on what they appreciate in people's character.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one culture will put a greater emphasis on strength, for example, physical strength. I mean, that used to be very important in ancient cultures, where you had to defeat another tribe or another kingdom to keep existing. But the physical strength is not a virtue. So the virtue that you need to use your strength is courage. You know, to go out there, even if the enemy is with more people or so. And although the way in which we are now using our courage is different. So courage is not shown if somebody goes out on the street with a sword, or so to defeat his or her enemies, but you still need courage in difficult circumstances, you know, and we still think that somebody should be courageous if he is in a difficult circumstance. Like if you are a journalist and you are kidnapped by Al Qaeda or something, and you are put in prison, you still need courage to hang on, you know. So the emphasis that is put on different virtues may differ from place to place and from culture to culture. Yeah, so not every virtue will always be as prominently visible all the time. And there can be things maybe that that other cultures used to find very important and we don't find very important. But I don't know if those are virtues. I think it's really the way in which you work it out. But the family, like family ties, have always been important, I think. Taking care of people. I don't know of any examples. No examples come to mind of when those things were not important, let's say. So. So I think the emphasis may shift. We in the church maybe put a great emphasis on faith, you know. Yeah, but I don't think that every culture makes up his or her own virtues. We can still say about other cultures that they were like high cultures or low cultures, that they were virtuous or not, and we are using like a standard we have. So I think they are common for all mankind. Yeah.
That's interesting. So you argue the virtues are indeed universal through different cultures. Can it also be that it's a matter of selection? The cultures that put an emphasis on the virtues of look after each other, love each other, stuff like that. I can imagine that those are the cultures that survive longer and become bigger because there are more people around because people care for each other.
Yeah, that's an interesting explanation. It's a sort of a evolutionary argument, right? So so why are we taking care of each other? Why are we beings that take care of each other? Well, maybe we are just, it gives us an evolutionary advantage. So if we take the people who took care of each other, they survived. So the only people that are still around are people who took care of each other, right? But I think that is not like an argument you would like to hear from somebody when like somebody is taking care of you and you ask, why are you doing this? And this other person says, well, I'm taking care of you because I think it gives us an evolutionary advantage as a species, you know? I think you wouldn't really like that answer. You would say, oh, so you're not doing it for me then. And maybe you could argue that this is how this virtue came to be. Well, that may be, but then still I think it's not relevant for now anymore because we are not, it's not the way we are, or it's not the reason we are taking care of each other, because we are not taking care of each other to help advance our species, you know? I would say we are taking care of other people because we are motivated by love, and I would like to believe that this has always been our motivation. So I would like to believe that also the people like 4,000 years ago, they were taking care of each other because they loved each other. So I like to believe that this has always been the reason we are taking care of each other.
Okay, so then what difference does God make for you personally? How does God help you to love other people better?
I think that love is like the most important thing in our lives, and And I want to be someone who loves other people, especially the people who are close to me. And the way in which God helps with this is that, as I mentioned, I think God is love. That's what the Bible says, that God is love. So there is like an infinite supply of love in God. And it's something I can tap into, you know? So I think during your life there can be a lot of moments in which you cannot muster in yourself the love that you would want to give to somebody, or you cannot find it in yourself maybe. You just feel empty in those moments, or I don't know. And I think that God can work through us and give His love through us to this other person. So you become like a vessel for His love. You know, so I think that that's a beautiful thing about Christianity, that it enables us to love each other more. It's one of the things that I think is very, very beautiful and appealing, that there is an infinite supply of love in God, and if we just tap into that, you know, and let Him work through us, He can work this love through us, and we can give so much more love to each other than we will be able to do otherwise.
Okay, that sounds really cool. Maybe if this isn't too personal for you, do you have a personal example of how this works?
I find it hard to like point to a specific instance or so, but as I mentioned before, like I feel this responsibility for people around me, especially like my brothers and so. And I think also that this is something that God is working through me. That's just something I believe, you know. So I believe that it's not only me doing this, but it's always also God enabling me to be patient, to be welcoming, to be kind. So I can't really point to one or two instances in which it was very obvious, but I do believe that it is something that is like going on like almost all the time. That is always God is trying to work His love through me, and He is enabling me to give more love than I would otherwise be able to give.
Okay, very cool. We still have a lot of questions, but we're running out of time, sadly. So if you have asked a question that we've not gotten to ask, please join the Zoom session afterwards. We can discuss it there. I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe you would be able to join the Zoom session, or maybe even people could talk with you about these themes afterwards at a later moment.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, that's very that's possible. Yeah, I'll be willing to do that.
Okay, that's very nice. So grab your chance if you want to discuss your questions more with Ruben. Leave something like that in the chat or in the forum or another appropriate place. What's an appropriate place for that? In the feedback form. Fill in the feedback form. You get all kinds of free stuff. You get free books also on this theme, and you can add a comment about want to connect with Ruben. We're not going to give them your phone number, Ruben. That wouldn't be wise.
Give them my Facebook URL.
We will do that. That will lead to some nice conversations. One final last question. Do you have any quick reading tips for people about this theme?
Yeah, I just started in this book by C.S. Lewis again, Mere Christianity. It's also the book from which I quoted. And I think C.S. Lewis very, very clearly explains the things that we as human beings have in common, you know, like our moral compass. And what does that say, you know, that we are, apparently there is like a standard to which we are all keeping others and also ourselves, so we feel guilty if we are not doing the right thing. Why is that? You know, what will be an explanation for this? So that's I haven't finished it, but I think already the first 2 chapters are great.
Okay, C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. I think you could talk another evening about that book. Let's do that sometime. Thank you, Ruben, for your talk and for answering the questions.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for all the questions in Sli.Do. It was a nice conversation that came out of it. Thanks for joining. Please remind yourself to fill in the form. You get a lot of free stuff. I will remind you of what kind of free stuff. You get a goodie bag with chocolate and nice food. You get free books also in this theme and on the themes of the other evenings. And you can continue the conversation with Ruben specifically, or just broadly, and also about the other themes of the week. Thank you for joining. Have a nice evening and see you on Zoom in a minute. you.